Thank you very much. Human rights indeed is a very challenging arena because it involves humans and their rights. And what are we talking about when we talk about elections and human rights? We're talking about the right to civil and political participation, the right to choose your leaders, but we're also talking about other rights, especially in the Kenyan context. Right to life is normally a very, very threatened right around election time. We are talking about the right to security of the person. We are talking about the right to food at the same time, because sometimes livelihoods are threatened to the extent they cannot access markets. They cannot go out and do their normal trade and business. So a lot of lives are actually threatened along with elections. Kenya has a checkered history around elections, going way back to the 90s. But probably the standout period was 2007, when we had a lot of election violence. And from that time, we've been building a history of rights into elections. And it's been a journey. It's been a very, very long journey. And 2013, not so good. 2017 was bad again. And we spent a lot of resources and time, especially in the police service. Because if you look at the 207 reports, 90% of the deaths were said to be due to the security sector, caused by security agencies. So our focus was mainly the security sector, to ensure that they can actually engage in human rights-based policing and be able to police the society, to enable to enforce security without harming civilians, without killing people. And I must say we reaped the results in 2022. I think the police have become more receptive to engagement with civil society. Historically, the police was a very closed-in sector. The police was a disciplined force where things happened and you ask for anything, they say secrecy, and they tell you we cannot disclose any information or data. But again, the 2010 Constitution changed a lot of things. We have the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, which oversees the police sector. That brought in some sort of sanity. We also have the National Police Service Commission, which also again engages with policemen on discipline issues. And then we have the Independent Audit Unit, which also oversights police misdemeanors. So there's been a lot of also oversight on the policing sector. But as a human rights agency, we have engaged the police authorities. We have developed for them policies. We have developed for them guidelines. We've developed for them standard operating procedures that infuse human rights-based policing into everything they do. And we've reaped the benefits, I must say. The data I'll give may not be exact because I don't have the data with me, but this year we recorded about 7 deaths, election-related deaths, right from the pre-election, during elections, and post-election. And out of the 7 deaths, 3 were road accidents. But around elections, the truck falls over or they ran into a crowd or something. 3 were also shootings. And none of these shootings was attributed to the police. It was politicians and people engaged in the election. So we don't have any record of a police officer shooting and wounding or maiming a citizen in this election. In 2017, we had about 90-something cases of deaths, and almost 80% of that was attributed to police officers. So the data speaks for itself in terms of the difference between 2017 and 2022. I must then commend NCIC as well. and maybe the religious community. There was a lot of peace messaging going on in Kenya. For the last 3 or more years, there's been intensive peace messaging. And I think NCIC is that came with the slogans, elections bila noma. Yeah, elections without any chaos, elections that are peaceful. And it's not just the border. I think the Kenyan citizenry quietly got to a stage where we say in Swahili, punda imechoka, the donkey is tired. So yeah, I think people have reached the stage where they were actually fatigued, because we come, we fight, you guys go back up there, you get elected, and you forget us. So the stage where people just said, we won't fight for you anymore. And the peace messaging also reinforced the fact that fighting doesn't help you. It doesn't promote you. It doesn't keep you going. It interrupts your normal trade and business. And yet, at the end of the day, there'll be handshakes, there'll be friendships, there'll be MOUs. But you, what do you benefit as a citizen out there? Especially the border, the people at the bottom rank, they don't get to benefit. So they all get affected by the high cost of living. They all get affected, especially these elections came when the price of unga is flour for ugali, our dominant meal, was skyrocketing. The cost of fuel was skyrocketing. And everybody's conversation was, will fighting bring me ugali on my table? You know, will it bring food to the table? So essentially, the donkey was tired, punda ilichoka. But the peace messaging was also reinforced and really worked. As a Human Rights Commission, essentially we were pretty well organized in the regions that we're covering. We had over 300 monitors out in the field, and observers reinforced it. I think the greatest challenge we witnessed out there is IEBC-related challenges. And IEBC-related challenges was, I think, a personnel issue and maybe not enough capacity building for their officers, so that when we were out in the field monitoring, half the time we were educating the public, doing the role of IEBC. By people would come and approach you and say, where do I do this? What happens? I can't find my name. My thumb didn't pick up on the biometrics. So that was really hard, because as an observer, you're supposed to be neutral. You're not supposed to be offering advice. But at the same time, there were those systemic challenges for IEBC that we had to try and bridge occasionally out in the field. We had a few cases of violence against women. The greater injury was through the media, social media. There was a lot of media bashing, body shaming of women who tried to engage in politics. We had a case of violence against a woman politician in one of the suburbs of Nairobi. Sadly, it was perpetrated by a woman politician on a woman politician, and that is a new low for us, because you would expect women to look out for each other. But this was very bad. In fact, it was very violent. But generally, women faced barriers, especially at political party nominations, where they were probably just rigged out, or where they won, they were convinced to stand aside and let a male counterpart take the seat and promised nomination or something. So party primaries were really unfair to the female candidates, and that's something we are taking up with the relevant political parties to see if we can see policy development in that regard. Violence was not as bad again as 2017 against women, but as I said, we noticed a new trend of women to women violence. Violence against children, we did not notice direct violence against children, but we noticed abuse of children by using children in campaigns. We have, in our documents, we have children in party t-shirts participating. We have children queuing for cash handouts. We have children singing for politicians and that kind of thing. So this interrupts education, exposes children to a violent, potentially violent environment, and all these are noted in our reports. We reported all we can do is report it to the ODPP. It's in our report to the ODPP. We'll be following up to see that there's prosecution. In this election, I think the victors were the Police Service Commission for actually conducting a violent-free election. For once, it was amazing to see the police at work. Several of my monitors on the ground would run into trouble. I would make a phone call, and there'd be a police officer on the ground rescuing my workers, and that was really, really pleasing to see. As a commission, we are happy that human rights is now being observed in elections. We are having more human rights friendly election environment. Political parties, though still very challenging, are also picking up, but the gender issue still outstanding. None of the political parties is able to give us a 1/3 compliant list or 2/3 compliant list, whichever way you look at it. And that's still a challenge out there, something we need to work on in terms of trying to improve. The president gave us his assurance that he would look into the gender issue. He's told Parliament to ensure the bill is enabled. We are going to push to see that for us, that would be a plus out of this election, that if we can see a bill on gender representation really coming into law, that would be really, really a great milestone in terms of going forward. Oh, I'd like to see a Kenya where every person is treated as a human being deserving of dignity and personal well-being. It's a Kenya where human rights are respected. A Kenya where human rights is imported into every policy, every action, every step. That would be a fantastic Kenya. Elections in Kenya is more of a security event than a civic event where we need to just choose our leaders. It would be nice to have it move from a security event to a peaceful civic event where we don't even have to stop the day, just go cast your vote and go on with your business, you know. I would also like to see a Kenya where people's will is actually translated into the result. We have a population that is really, we have a lot of voter apathy, let me put it that way. A lot of people are not coming out to participate because they don't believe that the result is what they asked for. And that's unfortunate. We should have every Kenyan coming out to participate voluntarily and actually electing leaders of integrity for this country. The voter apathy is also based on people feeling, and I'll speak Kenyanese here, elections are stolen. That's typical Kenyan language, but yeah, they always feel the elections have been rigged in favor of one side or the other, and people feel like their vote does not count towards the whole. And we need to therefore put in systems to boost the confidence of Kenyans in the capacity of the electoral body to carry out free, fair, and independent, credible elections. Yeah, so we had 150 monitors out in the field, but we had a control room here in our offices in Nairobi. So we had gadgets with all our monitors where they had to feed real-time information to us at the center. And from the center, we would then get help where it was needed. And that's why I said earlier that where there was need for police help, we always had contacts and would be able to get the regional county commander or county commissioner to go out there and give the responses. We also had linkages with the the office of the prosecutor. So where we needed arrests or quick action, they would also act. So we worked as a team, indeed, but the control room was in Nairobi, and every instance was reacted to from here and actioned. Yes, we work together with ELOG, we work together with FIDA Kenya, we work together with the NCIC, and yes, we work together with, there was a coalition of civil society actors as well, who we worked with. So half the time they actually reported their cases to us, so that, because we had faster responses on the ground. So when they report to us, then we were able to cascade it and get responses that were needed. Climate change is really something topical now because its effects are being experienced through the drought. It threatens food security, it threatens the right to education, it threatens livelihoods and shelter, and it causes conflict. So climate change has a big gamut of rights issues that it is impacting right now. So climate change is very on the table in terms of things that need addressing. Civil and political rights are there, but with our current constitution, I think people are kind of in a doldrum in terms of civil and political rights. But one of the issues being pushed forward for Kenya today is the right to assembly, the right to picket, the right to come out and say, demonstrate. And this is because there are no regulations in place to totally regulate the sector. And I know there's a push from civil society actors who have come together, and they have actually asked the Law Reform Commission to look into our law books to clear out any repulsive or repressive laws that are in there that actually impact on the right to demonstrate. Too early to judge. Yeah, but as a commission, we'll be assessing this new administration on its 100-day performance once they are hit 100 days in office, so that we can give an assessment of where we project human rights shall be. But looking at their manifesto, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, we are very encouraged as a human rights institution, because they really highlight human rights issues as being their main agenda. And I must say, seeing the actions on extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances, seeing the reshuffle at the DCI's office, these are some of the things that we have talked about for years in terms of why are people disappearing, why are people being killed. We hear cases every day from the suburbs of Nairobi of police officers shooting children, I would call them children and young men, indiscriminately and labeling them thugs. And our point of view has always been, let everyone have their day in court if they're criminals. We know criminals are not right for society, but it's also not right to just exterminate them out there. But yeah, we have instances of police officers parading people and saying, if you know these people, warn them because we will shoot them next time. Who gives them the right to do that? No one has the right to take away a life. So we are happy and encouraged that the current administration seems to want to address that, and that's encouraging. We also hear the public prosecutor saying we will no longer charge people unfairly. I think that's encouraging. But as an institution, we'll rate the administration after 100 days to just see their human rights rating.